Oh, it is very warm. Very, very warm. But, yeah, summer. Wonderful. I love that meme where it's the average summer enjoyer and the average winter enjoyer, and they're like opposite ends of the spectrum, where you've got people in summer who are just like, ah, yes, summer, and they're just on fire roasting. And you've got people in winter that are like, ah, yes, winter, and they're basically an ice block. It's almost as if there isn't a transitionary season where it's the perfect temperature because all you need is a jacket. Anyway, hello and welcome back to the Lion's Den. I'm your host, Matt, as always, and as promised, this week we're talking about the escape room that I did. But I would like to just point out one revolutionary piece of ingenuity that I stole from someone else because I saw them do it. My room is notorious for just not venting the heat that's inside it very well. But I'd had the window open like as wide as possible. And I was thinking, oh, I feel a bit of a cool draft. So I thought, what if I put the fan blowing into the room but in front of the window? Will that just kind of promote airflow into the room? And it's working! It's genuinely working! I've watched my room drop like a degree in the past hour or so. So assuming that the temperature outside doesn't get hotter than it is in my room, I can just ventilate the heat. So yes, good. I can get it back to a temperature where I can exist and not be just a puddle on the floor. But anyway, let's talk about the escape room, because the escape room was just, I suppose it's one of those things for me that actually lived up to my expectations, because I've been wanting to do an escape room for a while, and this one honestly just kind of sold me on the idea, sold me on the concept. So yeah, for context, if you've never done an escape room, this one specifically was in like an underground room, I assume, or like it was at least below street level. So it's completely boxed in. It's literally just a room, or in this instance, it was a couple rooms that were connected, and there's a bunch of puzzles in it, and you got to do something. This one wasn't quite so much escaping the room itself, as the name would imply. This one was a bomb defusal style room, which was very interesting and very well done, because they give you like a little story with it. So the story was that I think some terrorists or some like anti-train people had planted a bomb in the train tunnel that was being constructed, and you have been instructed with going in and trying to defuse the bomb before it explodes and, well, kills you and also multiple other people. So that was cool, and obviously the aim of the room is to get to the bomb and then defuse it. Very, very good, very fun. The funny part to me was, even though it's fake, your brain still kind of got tricked, or at least mine did, because I'm an idiot, I don't know. So the initial room that we stood in, you couldn't see the bomb, but eventually you unlock one door where you've got then like a little window and you can actually see the bomb, and it's got the clock on it that's counting down. At that point I was like, oh, there's a real bomb in here. And it's like, no, it's not, you idiot. It's just, it's fake. It's fine. But yeah, it was just cool. Really, really cool. The atmosphere was great. I thought it was quite funny because they kept playing like weird 80s and 90s music through the speaker system. Just when like stuff happened, they'd play an appropriate song, or they would just put on some sort of music, so it kept it kind of quite light, which was fun. The first thing that was quite funny to me is that my other friends had already done escape rooms before, so the minute we got in the room and the guy left and was like, right, off you go, they just went. They were running around the room, they were finding stuff immediately, they were solving puzzles within like the first minute. I'm just stood there looking around like, what do I do? I don't know what to do. It took me probably maybe 15 minutes before I actually started to kind of get into it. So I imagine if you were all first timers, you're probably not gonna make it out. Or, I mean, that one specifically was the harder version of the room because they knew what they were doing. I didn't. But yeah, that was just funny because I was just sat there like, I can see there are things, and I do like puzzles, so maybe I can do something. But eventually I did get into it. I eventually started figuring stuff out, and I did realize that the room is very clever because it's built in such a way that you kind of have to work together. You can't do stuff purely on your own. You need to work as a team. So whilst I maybe didn't start puzzles, I certainly helped in the middle of puzzles and helped finish puzzles. Like there was a specific one where in one part of the room, one of my friends had done like a little puzzle with some arrows and numbers, but they were like, what do I do with this? And then I put together that there was a board with a bunch of switches and numbers on it that you could then do in the correct directions. So yeah, it was nice like that. And I probably didn't pull my weight entirely, but I didn't exactly do nothing. I certainly did do some stuff, but I think that's mainly just because they were so fast at getting through a bunch of things, so that was fun. I did also make myself laugh because the way they'd made the room look, it genuinely looked like it was brick walls, and then I realized it was like polystyrene foam material, and I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't lean on the wall. I don't want to break the room. So that was quite funny. But yeah, we actually solved it. I'll spoil it now. We solved the room, which was fun. We got it within 5 minutes, so we had 5 minutes left on the clock. So, I pardon the pun, cutting it a little close to the wire, but still doing it. So that was really cool. I think to me, it was like a little overwhelming, but then it all kind of started to make sense, and it was just then fun at that point. And I suppose what my role was suggesting the stupid stuff to get it out of the way, because I'd be like, oh, maybe you could do this with this puzzle, and they'd be like, oh, but that doesn't make sense, and then they'd walk straight onto the next solution. So that was cool. The like room, I want to say room master, but the person who was watching the room and giving hints as and when needed, because yeah, there were points where we needed hints. He said, who solved this puzzle? And I was like, oh, I did that. He's like, I didn't see you do it. What, did you like run back and forth to try and do the puzzle? I was like, yeah, I just kind of ran around, did it myself. He's like, yeah, that's really cool, that's quite impressive. And I was like, nice. They had some really interesting stuff in there as well. Like there was a laser puzzle where there were like multiple mirrors stationed in the room that at first glance didn't make any sense, but then the idea was that you had to bounce the light around the room into a specific spot to get it to unlock something. That was really interesting. I'm trying not to say too much. I'm just trying to say like the mechanics of it because it was just interesting, but I don't want to spoil the puzzles because yeah. There was one fun puzzle where there was like a sliding mechanism that the person who had to slide the mechanism couldn't see, but another person from a different point in the room could then guide them to say like, oh, here's the puzzle, you need to slide it around here. That was fun. I got jump scared completely unintentionally. There was a little kind of rope machine thing that you use, like those arcade machines with the claws to grab prizes. There was one of those, but it used multiple different ropes to kind of maneuver stuff, and initially the ropes were like pressed up into the ceiling so that you couldn't access them, and then they do a puzzle and they dropped down. I was standing underneath them when they dropped down, so they dropped on my head and I jumped slightly because I was like, oh, what's happening? Is the roof falling? So yeah, that was amusing. There were just some really neat ideas in the room that I'd never seen before. Maybe they'd been in other places, but just it was almost that scenario of everything in the room in one way or another ended up becoming a puzzle somehow, which was really clever. Like going back to the whole laser thing, initially in the corner of the room there's a medicine cabinet, right? And medicine cabinets have mirrors on them, which you don't think about at all initially. But then when the laser went on, you were going, oh, there's a medicine cabinet with a mirror on it, I can reflect the laser, which was really clever. The kind of subtle details in that scenario, very nice. The funny part was at one point there was a key that dropped from one of the puzzles and we completely missed it. We heard the key drop, but we didn't see where it went, so we were just like, okay, not sure what that was. And the guy had to send a hint like, there was a key. So we had to like look around on the ground to find wherever the key went. That was quite funny. But yeah, I liked the very final puzzle because it required I'd say three people minimum, but we all kind of worked on it at the end, because the big puzzle required multiple parts of the room to be interacted with to make it work. I don't want to say too much because that would spoil it, but the puzzle worked nicely, gave us the correct solution to defuse the bomb, and it was great. I overcomplicated certain things because like the limitations of their ability to build the room, I read into too much. So basically there was one hint that talked about perspective, and in one of the rooms they'd made a perspective image on the floor, mainly just for the aesthetic, to make it look like it was a tunnel. But I was like, oh, it's a perspective image, maybe this is the perspective we're supposed to use. No, I was being stupid. I was reading that one way too hard, but that was like the only funny part that I was being a genuine idiot with. But other than that, a really fun experience, and I would 100% like to do one again. And the concepts and ideas that my friends were telling me about of other places they've been to just sound absolutely fantastic. Like, they told me about this time travel one that sounded really cool. Some of the other rooms in the place that we went to also sounded really cool. So yeah, hopefully I get to do another one at some point in the future. But other than that, if you're interested in an escape room, would highly recommend. If you're not into the whole like scary horror side, don't worry about it. That one definitely wasn't a scary horror thing. It was quite lighthearted for most of it. So yeah, I would suggest it. I'd also suggest making sure you go to the toilet beforehand. I did, because the guy was like, we can freely leave and enter the room, you know, because emergencies and whatnot. But, like, obviously, your clock doesn't stop ticking. So I was like, I don't need the toilet, but I'm going to go just in case. So, yeah, that would be the one thing I recommend. But other than that, I hope you've enjoyed listening. I hope you've inspired to go and try an escape room. Have a wonderful day. What am I saying? I don't know. See you later. Bye.